It was a Tuesday in Oak Ridge, sunny, quiet, and utterly normal. Sarah Jenkins just wanted $40 from the Elm Street ATM, a machine she'd trusted for years. She inserted her card, entered her PIN, and waited. The machine whirred, clunked, and then nothing. No cash, just a message. Transaction complete. Please take your card. Confused, Sarah checked her banking app. The money was gone. She tried again. Same result. The ATM took her money, but gave nothing back. Calls to the bank led nowhere. Just promises of an investigation. Soon, others in town reported the same thing. The ATM was unpredictable, sometimes dispensing cash, sometimes not. It became a local spectacle. Some people got lucky, others left empty-handed. The bank slapped an out-of-service sign on the machine, but the mystery lingered. How could a machine built for logic act so erratically? Its job was simple: verify, dispense, repeat. But this one had started making its own rules. Technicians were baffled. Police shrugged it off. But for one digital forensics investigator, this was more than a glitch. It was a puzzle begging to be solved. The Elm Street ATM had become Oak Ridge's digital ghost story. Enter David Chen, digital forensics investigator. David's tools weren't badges or magnifying glasses. They were laptops and relentless curiosity. The bank had run every diagnostic. The ATM looked fine on paper, but the problem persisted. David started with the people, not the code. He interviewed victims, searching for a pattern. Most saw an ATM. David saw a web of systems, software, hardware, environment, and users. He suspected the issue wasn't just digital, but physical. A virus would be predictable. This was random, mechanical, and targeted. David hypothesized someone was physically manipulating the machine. No signs of tampering were found, but David knew the best attacks are invisible. He had the ATM removed and brought to his lab. He wasn't just running tests, he was performing an autopsy. Piece by piece, he'd uncover the secret. Somewhere inside, the answer waited. The ghost in the machine wasn't a glitch. It was a person's handiwork, and David was determined to find out how. In his lab, David treated the ATM like a crime scene. He created a forensic image of its hard drive, a perfect digital copy. He dove into transaction logs, comparing them to bank records and complaints. The logs showed every transaction as successful, even when no cash was dispensed. The machine believed it had paid out. The manipulation wasn't in the software's logic. It happened after the command to dispense. David turned to the firmware, the code that controls the hardware. He extracted the cash dispenser's firmware and compared it to a clean version. The checksums didn't match. The firmware had been subtly altered. A few lines of malicious code had been inserted, introducing randomness. Most transactions worked, but every so often, the code triggered a different command. The machine would go through the motions, but the cash was diverted before reaching the slot. The ATM thought it had dispensed money. The ghost was in the code, controlling the hardware. David was closing in on the trick. The altered firmware explained how, but not where the cash went. David dismantled the cash dispenser, searching for physical evidence. Hidden inside, he found it. A custom-made cash trap, nearly invisible, designed to fit perfectly. This wasn't a card skimmer. It was a device to steal bills. The malicious firmware triggered the trap, diverting cash onto an adhesive strip inside the machine. To the sensors, the transaction was complete. But the money was stuck, waiting for someone in the know. The theft was random by design, making it look like a glitch. Sporadic failures delayed suspicion and kept the ATM in service longer. The pattern wasn't in the victims, but in the chaos. The thieves hid in plain sight, collecting their loot at will. David had found the mechanism, but who put it there? The cash trap raised a bigger question. Who had access to install it? Only insiders or someone posing as one could breach the ATM's vault. David requested service records for the past 6 months. He found a key detail. The first malfunction started after a routine maintenance visit. The technician, Mark Rendell, a trusted contractor with top-level clearance. On the day of the visit, GPS data showed Rendell made an unscheduled stop at an industrial park. It was a deviation, a loose thread. David knew that pulling on loose threads unravels conspiracies. The evidence pointed to an inside job. The culprit wasn't a faceless hacker, but someone with a key and a plan. The mystery was no longer about code. It was about trust. The Elm Street ATM had been betrayed from within. David was ready to confront the human element. The device David found was criminal engineering at its finest. Unlike typical card skimmers, this was a cash trap, built to steal bills, not data. It had two parts: a 3D printed diverter gate, custom fit for the ATM, and a microcontroller that responded to a secret signal from the altered firmware. The diverter redirected cash onto an adhesive strip, while the microcontroller tricked the ATM's sensors. This level of integration required a team hardware and software experts, plus an insider to install it. It wasn't a random attack. It was a coordinated operation. The Elm Street ATM was a test case in a larger scheme. The criminals had blended digital and physical skills. This was organized crime, not a lone hacker. The ATM was chosen, studied, and compromised with precision. The real threat was the sophistication behind the scenes. Mark Rendell's GPS led police to a workshop filled with 3D printers, soldering stations, and ATM schematics. Dozens of cash traps were ready for deployment. Mark wasn't the mastermind. He was the insider, recruited by a criminal ring. Gambling debts made him vulnerable. Access made him valuable. For 2 years, he'd learned the systems, waiting for the right moment. Mark justified his actions as victimless, just robbing a bank, not people. But he overlooked the real victims. People like Sarah, left confused and short on cash. The weakest link in any system is the human one. Security can be undone by a trusted person with a motive. The Elm Street ATM story is a warning. Trust is the hardest thing to secure. Sometimes the real danger is on the inside. The haunted ATM story isn't just a curiosity, it's a lesson for everyone. Always inspect ATMs for anything unusual. If something looks off, don't use it. Monitor your accounts closely. Set up alerts and report discrepancies immediately. Use ATMs in well-lit, high-traffic areas, inside bank branches if possible. Standalone machines are easier targets for criminals. Remember, you're protected. Banks are required to investigate and reimburse fraud. The key is to act quickly and provide details. Don't let fear rule, but stay vigilant. Technology can be compromised, but awareness is your best defense. The Elm Street ATM victims were made whole, but the story is a reminder. Security is a shared responsibility, yours and the bank's. Stay alert and you'll stay ahead. Even in a digital world, a little caution goes a long way. The Elm Street ATM is a metaphor for our trust in technology. We believe automated systems are infallible, but complexity breeds vulnerability. The more features, the more entry points for criminals. The attackers didn't break the ATM. They exploited its seams. They used the system's logic against itself. Security is a constant battle between convenience and risk. The real challenge is building systems that adapt and detect, not just defend. Every ATM visit is a step onto an invisible battlefield. Most of the time, you'll walk away with your cash. But behind every transaction is a world of hidden threats and tireless defenders. Remember, security isn't just about machines. It's about people, vigilance, and trust. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay safe online. You've got this. See you in the next one. This is Cyber Defense, signing off.